Okay, we are live. Thank you for joining us. Please share this broadcast with your friends and networks now. Welcome to We the World's MLK Manifesting the Dream, a series of interactive broadcasts and community service activities that goes from MLK's birthday, January 15th, through February 28th, to honor and carry forward the work and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. To see the full MLK schedule, get updates, and to take action and be of service yourself, please go to we.net/MLK. My name is Rick Ulfik, and I'm the founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. Today is part 3 of our 3-part series called Dismantling Racism, Past, Present, and Future. On part 3 today, we will look at dismantling racism in the future with my co-hosts for today, Shannon CrossBear and Sue Blythe. And we will be featuring the voices of youth, including Adrian Alvarez, Raheem, Fatima, and Brianna Skildum. Before we start, I just want to mention that if you are inspired to have a similar conversation in your community, please tell us about it. You can email us at this address, mlk@we.net. That's mlk@we.net. Now let's bring in my co-hosts for this broadcast. Shannon CrossBear is co-founder of International Children's Month with Heidi Little and co-coordinator of We the World's campaign for interdependence. She articulates her purpose as to demonstrate and promote gentle healing. Sue Blythe coordinates We the World's campaign for the environment and the Climate Collaboratory, a pilot project of We the World and the University of Florida Extension. She is doing what she can to make a sustainable, just, and peaceful future for her 8 grandchildren and their future great-grandchildren. Welcome to the broadcast, Shannon CrossBear and Sue Blythe. And Shannon, can you please give folks a bit of background about the Dismantling Racism series and the amazing guests who are joining us today?
Famous last words, unmute, please. So I'm so glad to be here. Thanks, Rick. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited about having this conversation. And just to give people a little frame about how this came about is that We the World and our 11 campaigns to change the world and to create a we consciousness, from an I consciousness, me consciousness, to a we consciousness. And as a team, you know, we were faced with what everybody in the country is faced with, is just looking at what was happening, how we felt about it. And so as a group, we got together and we started to have some conversations about racism and dismantling racism and even what we were going to do. And so we just opened up the conversation because we were blessed with having the fact that we had quite a few different people in our core group from very different cultures, from very different backgrounds, and from very different races and ethnicities. And so to be able to have that conversation together, we started to have a series of conversations around dismantling racism. And so when we knew we were coming up to Martin Luther King Day, and we had an opportunity to kind of bring that same kind of forum and those discussions that really matter to a wider audience. And we decided to frame it on those 3 things that Rick talked about, the what does that mean looking at the past? Where have we been in terms of our relationships with each other, to where we are presently, and now to the future. So now, as we talked about the future, the thing that we thought about as we looked around the room is that at least, and no offense meant to my co-hosts Rick and Sue, but the three of us are probably not going to be here for really long future. I want to be here for a while, so I'm invested in this. But the truth of the matter is, the future and how people are going to uh, deal with the isms that we have and what that means in the future, building upon the message of Martin Luther King. And that's what we're here. So as we talked, we said we probably should have some young people on this, in this conversation with us, so they can tell us what that future may be and how they envision it. And then thinking about then what is our role, because we always talk about it's not what I can do, it's what we can do to make the difference, right? So what is our role as those who may be in allies in supporting the work, so that those future generations will have the kind of world that we all want to have. So, yeah, and with that, I'm very blessed to have I've got Brianna's here, and I'm going to let both Brianna and Adrian introduce themselves a little bit later, but I just want to say that both of them, like Brianna is my granddaughter, so of course I've got a really special place with her. But it's really nice when you can say you really appreciate somebody as another beautiful human being in the world with you. And so I'm so glad that she's here and she's able to lend her voice. And then Adrian, I've got to see in his work that he's been doing with Sue and with We the World and the environment and the climate. And so I'm so happy that he is here to lend his voice. We're hoping to have Raheem with us, who is from Pakistan. And
She is actually here. Yeah,
oh,
I guess you can't see her yet, but she is
okay.
here.
Oh, welcome, Raheem. And she has gotten up very, very early in the morning to lend her voice and to tell us how she is contributing to that future. So yeah, let's do it. Let's just get into this conversation. I'm going to pass it over to Sue to kind of help frame a little bit about the World House and what our focus of our dialogue will be. So thanks.
Right. Well, thank you, Shannon, and welcome everyone. It's just wonderful to see you all here. And I am coming as one of the elders. I'm one of the white elders who has grown up and seen a lot of change in my lifetime. When I was a little girl, um, we would go to South Georgia, where my parents grew up, and we would visit with my grandparents and my cousins and aunts and uncles, and and there were black water fountains and white water fountains. There were black bathrooms and white colored they were called. And I remember as a little girl thinking, now, does their water taste different than ours? I couldn't understand why we had different water fountains. It didn't make sense to me. And it really wasn't until the 1960s when Martin Luther King was marching in Selma and Washington, and I became aware that there was this racial difference. I mean, I had experienced it, but I didn't know what it meant. And so that was like an eye-opening experience and time for me. And through these years, I've just come to understand that we are living in a time when we are learning to overcome these differences and learning to appreciate each other as one human family. And so I would like to just turn it over to our young people to tell us about their own experience and what you would, something that's happened in your life that helps you to appreciate the problem, and then we'll talk about some solutions. And we'll start with Brianna.
Hello, my name is Brianna Skildum. I'm a young professional in Denver. I grew up in the traditional Native American way, so my family experienced a lot of pushback with that. I know that I'm white passing, and so when I describe myself as Native American, or when I tell people that my parents are Native American, my father is, the surprise from that is most often what I experience as far as racial divide. More so I experience it from an outsider's perspective though, and just seeing that other people are harmed by this way of life, this way of living, this way of thinking, and just doing my best to be an ally.
Thank you. And Raheem, how about you? You live on the other side of the world from us. How are things there?
So, before I start the conversation or like what I have to add, I'd really like to say it's like 4 a.m. in the morning for me. So do not mind my face, right? So I've stayed up for this because if I sleep, then I ignore the alarm. So it isn't the first time though. I've done it for peace. I have done it for the love, care, and respect of children with International Children's Month. So I've done it quite a few times, but I feel like this one was just so important that I couldn't ignore it. So yeah, it's a thing that I have. So I am Raheem Fatima. I am 13 years old. And I am a stand-up comedian, I'm a writer, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, I'm a volunteer teacher, I interview as well. I've done almost like, I think more than 500 by now. And I'm also a theater actress, and there I only work on child abuse and other topics like underage marriages and gender equality. And yeah, that's about what I do, and I have interesting things coming up. But I feel like um it's actually took some time for me to understand, and I actually asked this weird question to my dad. I'm like, what race am I? I mean, I know white and I know black, but what am I? So because I'm from Pakistan, it's usually, and it's so weird, but it's considered that I'm brown. So yeah. And I felt the gap at times because I've met many people and they'd be like, "Oh my God, so you're brown, so you're kind of like in the middle." I'm like, okay, so I mean, if you want to say it that way, but I feel like racism is not a good thing because I feel that the colors and all these things they're just made for where you're coming from, but it's not your individual identity. I feel like we shouldn't just be, oh my God, and then we put stereotypes on it. I mean, I don't know, like what people did centuries ago, I'm still stereotyped for it, right? So I feel like stereotypes, I think racism, again, is a term that comes with a lot of other problems. And then I feel like stereotypes is something that is very wrongly attached to it as well, that if a man is from a certain background or a certain race or certain ethnicity, they'll be like, oh my God, he's that and he's that. So I'm like, oh my God, it's not like that. So I feel like that needs to end, and correct cultural representation, I feel, is also what needs to be done.
Thank you. So, Adrian, how about you?
Hi everyone, my name is Adrian Alvarez. I'm 13 years old. I love and care for nature, and I have a YouTube channel called, well, currently it's called Adrian Chatty Boy, but I'm changing it to Adrian Alvarez in the future. And about racial injustice, I think that it shouldn't exist because the color of someone's skin doesn't describe what you are on the inside. So, yeah, I don't think it's fair. Also, I have to thank my parents because, they taught me that everyone's the same and it's common sense. Color of your skin doesn't describe what you are.
Great, thank you. So I'm just, I always love to quote words of wisdom, right? I'm one of the a little group that we're developing called the Sages of the Ages, and we collect all these wonderful quotations that help us to kind of elevate our thinking. And the one that I've been using during this Martin Luther King month is from Dr. King's Nobel Peace Prize lecture in 1964. And he said, "This is the great new problem of mankind. We have inherited a big house, a great world house, in which we have to live together. Black and white, Easterners and Westerners, Gentiles and Jews, Catholics and Protestants, Muslim and Hindu, and we like to add humans and nature. A family unduly separated in ideas, culture, and interests, who, because we can never again live without each other, must learn somehow in this one big world to live with each other." So this is where we start to think about, what is that world house like, and how do we get from where we are now to where we want to be? What do you think it will take? Who would like to begin?
I could start. I feel like we are, we're,
than you, and I have.
excuse me for that. I feel like we're closer now than we are, or that we have been as of late. We're going through another big time in our country's life and our country's, because we're a really young country. So we're going to have a lot of strife right away. We did have a lot of strife right away. We had 2 wars that we had to go through within our country itself. And we are still fighting those wars. I like to call them the identity wars. We're fighting for racism. We're fighting, or against racism, not for. We're fighting for the elimination of all of those isms. And I think now in this generation, and especially in the generation that's coming after this one, I think we're making a lot of progress, not because we are having a lot of these big wars, but because we're fighting these wars kind of like the Cold War. We're kind of fighting it in small ways, in very, very micro ways. I see people who are extremely, extremely considerate of each other's life conditions in my generation, and we're just teaching each other. We're unlearning bad habits. We're unlearning racism. We're learning compassion for human beings. And I see that in very, very small ways. Even just on social media, people are putting what are called trigger warnings on videos that talk about sensitive subjects. That wouldn't have been a thing 20, 30 years ago. We like to think of the past as this glorious thing. It's very romanticized, but the truth of it is that people were very rough with each other. And all I see nowadays with people who are my age or not all I see, I should say, but I see it a lot more often. And I feel like that's where the growth is coming from. And I just can't wait for people who are in our generation, in my generation, to reach the age where they can be in offices of power and they can actually make action and be old enough to be heard and listened to and create action with these ideas that they have, the ideas that I share. that we all share, that everyone is equal, that we should be judged on our individual merit, not based on our skin color and things like that. I think we're getting a lot closer than we have been. So
Beautiful. Thank you. Raheem?
Yeah, I feel like it's very, very important because this is this one thing that I would really love to share is that all my life I've heard many people say and tell me that I'm darker. And based on that, oh my God, but even like us brown people, most of us, you're like darker. I'm like, God knows what that means, but okay. And I feel like just the way that advertisement of products is done as well is very important. And I feel that there's been a lot of improvement since the past because for the longest time, brands they were just naming their whitening creams fairly. Let's just say they weren't the best names. I wouldn't like to mention any products in particular. And now because of, I would say, the millennials and what they've done with social media and even just graphic designing as to dark and beautiful and comfortable in my own skins and campaigns like that that only Instagram accounts have held, I feel like they have actually a very famous brand of Pakistan, it changed its name. So, and then they just added a glow. So it was more of a glow that you get on any skin. So I feel that if just the power of Instagram posts and Facebook posts and people going out and telling those things, just like in their conversations have changed this thing, then I think we have a long way to go. Yet we've made it, quite far. Let's just say that, right? Because even now people are judged, and I feel that it has a lot of historical impact on it as well. Because when I mean, us Pakistanis and Indians, when we were together as a subcontinent, we were invaded by the English. Um, it is that we felt that we are inferior. They were superior because they had, a lighter skin tone, and we had a more, let's just say, wheatish skin tone. And I feel like that is where it started, and then it just felt that anybody who is fair, even in the family, any kid, any sibling who is, they just considered, you know, the person to go to for any advice or for everything. So I feel like just that way it is represented is very important in the media, in the film industry, because admit it or not, we love what we see in cinemas or we love what we see on Netflix nowadays. I mean, I love Netflix, right? So I feel like just that really has changed, has a lot of way to go. But I say it very proudly, my skin color does not define who I am. I can be any color and I can be just as awesome.
Beautiful. Well, it's wonderful to see young people growing up with that sense of self, and I'm okay no matter who I am, what I look like, and that's a beautiful thing. How about you, Adrian? What do you think we need to do to get from here to what Martin Luther King describes as this world house?
I think, like Raheem said, that social media has helped a lot and is helping a lot because you can reach a lot of people at the same time. And I also agree with both Brianna and Raheem said. No, yeah, Raheem said that we have gone a long way since Martin Luther King. Now, um, now everyone, no matter their race or skin color, are going to the same school. They're going to the same classes, same sports. I think we've gone a very long way. All we need to focus on now is the mental state or the mentality of some people. And something else that's very important is that parents, because those bad habits come because their parents don't teach them the right way. So I think it's very important to start teaching their children that everyone's the same and that you should not judge someone by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, just like Martin Luther King said.
Good, thank you. Shannon, would you like to add to that conversation?
I think it's a great conversation. It makes me happy to, to hear. And Adrian, I often think about in the future when we talk about, we've had this, Brianna, you talked about the past, about how we've always had kind of this othering, we've always had this conflict. And Raheem, you talked about how, that just, that we have to get beyond that it's just something, and we can very easily do that by our simple everyday kind of actions and interactions. And so, and Adrian, what I was thinking about was, knowing your how you feel about the climate work that you're doing, right? What I was thinking about in this big world house is we talk about human beings, but I wonder if in the future we won't include everybody, like we will start to see things as interconnected, right? So so that we aren't elevating ourselves in this great big world that would hurt somebody else, something else, some other being, right? So I often think about, I wonder if in the future, they'll be having conversations about, remember when we used to think this ridiculous thing? And that's how I hope. I hope even with this idea of racism, but there's some deep stuff. I think, Adrian, you hit it. It's like you can change all the rules and all the ways that you're doing it, but until you change your mind and your heart, and I don't know, I often think it's your heart that comes first and then your mind gets changed, right? So, and it's all about relationship for me. And Brianna, I think you said something that else that just really kind of, I was curious about, but also kind of seeing that the young people in your age group are really redefining everything, right? Even what it means to all the isms, all the he, she, we isms that we have. And so, what do you think? I mean, in the future, when people, if people or others end up having conflict, how do you think that they'll resolve them? I mean, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think things will, I'm hoping that people will, on a grander scale, just be more mature about things, just end up talking about their feelings more. I hope we become more sensitive as a society. We've become really hardened through all of the hardship that we've had to go through. We've become a really like, you put your nose down. It's how I live my life. You put your nose down, you work, you get through it, you just do the job. And I think that our generation, my generation, is starting to realize that just doing the job, just getting the thing done, just doing it the way that it's always been done, it's not good enough anymore. And I think that no matter how we figure out a new way to resolve things, getting rid of this way of resolving things, getting rid of that automatic assumption that someone is going to be some certain way because of their color of their skin or because of how they look or whatever, getting rid of that is just so necessary that we'll find a way, we'll figure it out, we'll something. I mean, and it's not hard to just talk about how something makes you feel, to talk about, or to just, buck up and get through it, so long as someone's not harping on something that you can't change. So.
Yeah. Wow. It's so great to hear everybody's thinking and feeling about all of this. And for me, what we're talking about is creating that cultural shift towards we consciousness, right? because we consciousness, it moves away from us and them. We consciousness is more about what we have in common, and that we see ourselves as being part of the whole, and that any particular person, their health and well-being is essential to the well-being of all of us. So, so that's, of course, what we're doing with We the World. That's the whole idea of the We campaign, and moving from a me-based society to a we-based society. And I have a question for you, Raheem. You mentioned that you do stand-up comedy. Have you ever used stand-up comedy to bring up any of these issues that we're talking about? I wonder if there's a creative way of doing that that might break down the barriers of people, talking about a subject that's difficult to talk about, but using comedy to do that. Have you ever done that or thought of doing that?
And I forgot to mention it in my introduction. So thank you so much, Rick, that you brought that up. I actually did motivational comedy for a while. And I had this trick with it. When I knew that there's going to be more people coming in my audience, I do that because that way I could make larger impact. Um, and I feel like you're so right. Because when you're doing stand-up comedy, so my stand-up comedy is in 3 languages, and very little of it is in English. The rest, because I'm trilingual, so I speak in all 3 languages. Um, and when I am just speaking, I feel like people are laughing. And then I sat down with my dad and I'm like, let's do that. Because when I would just go on and say like, serious stuff right in their face, they'd be like, what are you saying? I mean, they'd be like all weird out. But if I, just do it another way, perhaps, they wouldn't be. And if they might not really want to implement it, they just laugh it off. But I think that we should really understand how art is a very big medium. So yes, I have done that and I still do that, and I try to incorporate props when I do that. So it's more of a visual thing that just keeps you, what is she holding and what is she doing, and so many things. So I think just also incorporating cultures, because I see we would just make fun of the way that we gossip, and then we'd also stereotype it. I mean, of course, that also happens. But I feel like when you talk about it, they don't carry that baggage everywhere, or don't unload, all your garbage in somebody else's can. So I feel like when you talk like that way, or like, I do it in another language, so of course you guys don't understand that. But I feel like that really does make an impact. Actually, I got this person that was so just touched by it, and uh, just was amazed. So I've done it in front of, you know, quite some people from actually quite some countries.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And the other thing I was thinking about is the importance of getting the voices of young people in out there in public, um, just so that we don't have to necessarily wait until the older folks have died off for there to be real change, you know, because I think many people are influenced by hearing the voices of young people. And we have a project with We the World called An Urgent Message from Your Children. And it's specifically about that. It's about getting the voices of young people in the form of videos, talking about their fears, their concerns, and their hopes for the future of the planet, mostly regarding the environment. But it's a general concept. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. Oh, and since I'm mentioning it, if you go to weyourchildren.org, that's where you'll see the invitation video and the videos that children as young as 5 years old have made from around the world.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
Yeah, so I feel like when I started professionally working, I was 11 years old. I was very young. Let's just say I have evolutionized, a lot of things, and just the way that I would communicate has really changed in a positive way. But I really feel like all the respect and all the people that really loved me and gave me like huge opportunities, I would say, just a time when they were like really, really counting on me. I mean, handing over the opening of your, first ever show, like comedy show. By the way, people are paying to come and see me. To an 11-year-old, let's just say that is a huge thing that Raheem Azam did. And I feel that I've been so lucky throughout because I got people like Rehan, Allah Wala, and so many people that just counted on me, and they've given me huge opportunities. Actually, by the way, I think a week or two ago, there's a political party that just came up in Pakistan, Insan Party, and they made me their shadow minister for friendship because I've been making so many friends from around the world. I have so many friends on Facebook and I connections on LinkedIn and so many friends on Instagram. So they made me the shadow minister of friendship. And it's just so special to me. And I'm certain that they made me like the shadow minister of a political party. So I feel like just that's amazing. And I also got an opportunity that's later this year to speak with His Holiness Dalai Lama. So yeah, I feel like these are huge opportunities and huge responsibilities that I carry with me as a very young person. But people, I think they've just started to at times just let go of their, you know, but this subconscious voice inside, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And just like go wild appropriately.
Yay, brilliant.
That's beautiful. Yay. So I want to mention that speaking of raising the voices of youth and finding ways to do that, um, I met Adrian on a global call for the Earth Charter's 20th anniversary. And he and his 10-year-old sister were like spokespeople for the children. And I wonder if you could tell us what that was like, Adrian, and how that might help us move toward this World House.
Well, that experience was a really, it was really impactful in my life because I met Sue, and I wouldn't be here without Sue. So thank you very much. Wait, could you repeat the question real quick?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what that was like for you, how you felt about having a voice on a global stage like that. It was really impressive to me. And I feel like it's young people like you who are willing to speak up, you and Raheem and Brianna, who are willing to be a voice for young people that are going to help us to get towards this world house that Martin Luther King envisioned.
Well, thank you for clarifying. I felt really like I was really excited and impressed that adults were letting kids speak for, because usually it's the adults, and I felt really proud that I was being chosen to speak on behalf of a lot of children on the planet. And I think that's very important because that's a sign of change. And change is really important because if, especially this one, because a very big part of our society are children. And we are the future, which is what I spoke there, that we are the future and that we want to help, but we can't help if you don't teach us or if you don't let us get the opportunity to help. So I was really happy and excited and motivated when they gave me the opportunity, and I'm very thankful for it.
Beautiful. So, um, the place that I see that going, I've been working with Adrian and his family. He's got two sisters who are also very happy to raise their voices, and a mom who just supports them 100%. And it's just a beautiful thing. So I reached out when I saw them on the global call for the Earth Charter, and said that I'm working with the elders, and I have a group called Elders Climate Action, and one of our goals is to help give voice to the youth. And so we've been trying different things to figure out how can we do that. And I think we've hit on something recently that seems to be picking up some steam, and we'd like to involve you, Brianna, and Raheem in what we're doing. And Adrian, maybe you could tell about what's been happening with Sharon and with Jim Graywolf Petruzzi and some of the other elders.
Well, one big thing we've been doing is we created a hashtag called Together We Will Dream On. And basically, in this hashtag, it's to invite everyone to submit in their dreams in a form of art. So you can either write it out, make a poem, draw it. So we've been working on this because expressing your dreams is very important, not just because, so it's not just so that other people can see it. It's also to motivate others, and maybe your dream helps another person's dream click because they didn't have that idea before. So I think it's very important. And
That's beautiful. Thank you, Adrian. And I know, Shannon, you have to take off soon. Do you want to share anything before you take off?
Sure. You guys can continue on. I just had another commitment that I need to, that has to do with sustaining the world. So there you go. We're about the work, right? Sustaining the world, and knowing that, all this conversation, we're just part of a larger world, right? And we just happen to be the two-legged on this world. And I just want to say thank you, Raheem. Thank you, Adrian. And thank you, of course, Brianna. I love seeing your beautiful faces. And I'm hoping that I get to connect more with you in the work that you're doing in the future and with Sue. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you for the work that you're doing to create a place where everybody belongs. So until next time.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
So I'm going to add a little bit to Adrian's work, that he has been willing to stand up and figure out how we can do this, what we call a youth and elder climate conversation. And so taking that hashtag, I've already talked with other people about how to do this. And we decided that what we need is a blog post where we can tell about it. And so I've done that, and I'm going to put it into the chat here on the Facebook. And it's called the World House Challenge. And so we are, I'm going to put the hashtag in again here. So what's happening is, as Adrian said, we're asking for the written or visual or performing arts. You can send in videos. This form has a place where you can submit your written work or upload a video or picture. So if you would do that, and then be sure to send that out on the social media. Together we will dream on, right? Together we will. I'm writing it in here now.
Yeah.
Together.
Together we will dream on.
There you go. So that's in the chat as well. So thank you. And I wanted to say that one of now I'm working with his little sisters, and we started playing a game on this game board. It's called the Earth Charter game. And my dream is that we can play games for all ages. And so my hope is that we can figure out a way to play like game shows. And I'm so excited to hear, Raheem, that you do comedy. And it might be fun to figure out what we could do together. We always ask, what can we do together that we can't do on our own? And so that might be something to just brainstorm a little about. What do you think?
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, I think it so happens to be that I'm also the ambassador for a board game that is on community building and is also promoting the sustainable development goals. So it's also kind of in a partnership, and we have the sustainable development goals, and it's such an amazing game, and it's in developing right now. Like the version that is, understandable for all ages, I feel is under development, and I feel as soon as I get it out, I'm definitely, gonna have, I think a marathon or something with all of you guys. We should have like
That
a
would
group
be,
playing.
yeah, you'll get us up at 4 a.m., right? So
I mean,
how about Brianna? Would that appeal to you at all? What do you think about having some kind of a game show to deal with these very heavy, serious subjects?
Absolutely. I see that quite a bit. Not quite game shows, but just kind of, yeah, relieving that tension through comedy like Raheem does, or through games and stuff like that. I think that's a great idea. There's bound to be some kind of way to manifest that, to have that happen. And I'd definitely be up for it. So
Oh, great. And Adrian, what do you think?
I think it's a great idea because a game always brings happiness, and at these times, it can get a little dark. And a game is a perfect way to teach what is happening and teach how to help in a fun way. And it's perfect because you can not only teach adults, you can also teach kids because kids learn better in games. So I think it's a really good idea, and I'm totally in.
And kids can probably play the games much better than the adults can. So this is another way that I see the young people being able to lead and letting the what I like to see is the children and youth taking the reins, doing what needs to be done to make the world that they want to see, and let the adults and elders who have the experience, and I feel like we have a lot of wider vision and knowledge of the networks and the systems and the way things work. So you tell us what needs to happen, and we can help you do that. So that's my plan. And it's
That's,
really exciting. Rick?
yeah, no, it sounds great. Does anyone have any closing thoughts as we wind up?
I'd love to say something.
Sure.
I'd like to say to all the people out there two things. First, heart that we say, oh my God, my heart will go on, and so many things about the heart. Heart is actually an organ that pumps blood around the body. I mean, like, so to say, but I feel like just that thing that God has put in us, like a feeling or a sense of spiritual feeling, whatever you want to call it, that is your heart, like your metaphorical heart. You know, you know what I mean. It's important. Your feeling is important. But I feel like put that first and just understand both, when you connect your spirit, mind, and body, I feel that then only you can create, that mindset that is needed to be, tolerant, because we do at times, we might not like certain things, though when it does not make sense, you know it, you have that feeling again, right? So please love all people from all races, countries, professional backgrounds, because that too is important. Never ever judge somebody as to what they do for an earning, right? So yeah, I love all ages. Age is just a number. That also applies to me and Adrian. So yeah, thank you so much, and love to all of the people, and please love back.
That's so beautiful. Anyone else want to say anything for our final statement? So, okay, well, this has really been a fabulous conversation. Um, I'm going to, okay, yeah, that's good. So I want to let people know that you can sign up for the full MLK schedule. Remember, this is just one of many, many events that we're doing as part of this MLK Manifesting the Dream program. So you can sign up and take action, be of service yourself and with your organization if you have one. You just go to we.net/MLK. And, We the World is all about collaboration. That's really what We the World is and what we do. So to collaborate with We the World and the We campaign, you can go to we.net/partner. And to learn more in general, just go to we.net, the easiest web address to remember, right? By far. The network of we.net. So, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about creating the beloved community. And that is really what we is all about. So I hope you will join with We the World and all of our partners as we move from a me society, this is like an M, to a we society. So that's what we do at We the World. So I want to thank you all for this wonderful program, and we'll all collaborate soon. Yes. There you go. Thank you. Bye-bye.